Saskatchewan, Canada. March 25th, 2015, 6 a.m. On the outskirts of Saskatoon, a man walking near a landfill site made an urgent call to 911. He had discovered the body of a young woman lying lifeless on the ground. Her skin was cold to the touch, and bruises covered her neck. Blood stained her black leather jacket, and her watch was shattered. Her bare feet and the signs of a violent struggle were unmistakable. Authorities arrived swiftly, but there were no signs of life, and she was declared dead on the spot. It was clear that the case was a homicide. The only clue nearby was a dark blue belt with a large buckle. The area was eerily quiet, with nothing else to identify her. Without any identification, the police released a description of her clothing and distinct tattoos, including a large lion tattoo on her back. Not long after, a teenage girl named Cheyenne called in, sobbing uncontrollably. She recognized the tattoos and identified the woman as her best friend, Brittany. The two had spent the night out together, but had parted ways early that morning, and Cheyenne hadn't seen her since. Further calls confirmed the same name, and soon it was confirmed the woman was Brittany.
The investigation began in the early morning hours of March 25th, 2015, when a passerby found the severely injured 18-year-old on Cedar Villa Estates Road on the outskirts of Saskatoon.
Brittany, 18, had lived in Saskatoon her entire life. She came from a large family, and when her parents divorced, they both remarried, creating an even larger family. Brittany had 4 younger sisters who adored her, and she had recently reconnected with her biological father after years of separation. They had quickly built a strong relationship and enjoyed spending time together. Brittany was known for being outspoken and never hesitated to share her opinions. She loved adventure and enjoyed activities like snowboarding, boating, and camping. Despite her busy lifestyle, working 2 jobs and returning to school, Brittany had big dreams of finishing school, attending college for business, and eventually working in the hospitality industry. Authorities began piecing together the events of the previous day, narrowing down the time of death. Brittany's close friend Natasha was the first to come forward. She had been a constant source of support for Brittany over the years. Natasha had encouraged Brittany to return to school after she dropped out, even offering advice when Brittany struggled. On March 24th, Natasha had lent Brittany some money for gas and asked what her plans were. Brittany said she was meeting a few friends and might go to a party. Natasha hugged her goodbye, saying, "All right, girl, I'll see you soon." But after that, there was no word from Brittany.
Look at the facts, accept what happens, and really hope for the best. Best outcome for the family and the friends, and just knowing that she's not suffering anymore and in a better place, I think is a good thing, and that she's probably in a better place than where this world is today. It's scary out there. Can't even go over to a house party, can't go out anywhere without something happening, especially in this city. In my eyes, the city's become a thug town, and you have to be very careful at what you do and where you go. And this is one lesson. Unfortunately, it's a hard lesson, but it's a lesson to tell the world, like, look, you really need to be careful out there. This could be anybody.
Cheyenne, Brittany's best friend for many years, was the next to speak. The two became close when Brittany learned about Cheyenne's troubled childhood and adolescence and became a major support for her. They were inseparable, spending nearly every day together, often going out for drinks. Their night started just after midnight when Brittany posted a selfie of the two of them before they left. Cheyenne told the police they visited several places together in Brittany's car, beginning with Manchester's Brew Pub, then heading to a house party and later across town to the Colonial Pub and Grill. Cheyenne described the house party as overwhelming, and after leaving, the rest of the night was a blur. She vaguely remembered something happening at the Colonial Pub and Grill, which she feared might have been connected to what happened to her friend. Brittany had started chatting with a random man at the bar, and they seemed to get along well. Brittany asked him for a lighter and invited him to join them for drinks. Before Cheyenne could talk to him, Brittany and the man left. Brittany didn't mention where they were going, and Cheyenne didn't get the man's name or notice which direction they left in. All Cheyenne remembered was that he was white, and it was around 4 a.m. For some reason, Brittany had Cheyenne's phone, and Cheyenne returned to visit her uncle, who confirmed she came alone. Cheyenne couldn't provide more details, and what she remembered was blurry. Hours later, Cheyenne posted on Facebook, worried, asking, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe. Love you." Police were urgently trying to track down the mystery man, but they had few leads. The whereabouts of Brittany's car remained unclear until it was eventually found. The vehicle was covered in dust, dirt, and dark marks on its side, with long grass tangled in the tires. Cheyenne's phone was discovered inside the car, which suggested that Brittany had taken it with her. This raised the possibility that Brittany and the unknown man had driven somewhere together instead of walking. Detectives reviewed footage from the Colonial Pub and Grill, but neither Cheyenne nor Brittany appeared on the recordings. The bar had no recollection of their presence, and due to the crowded nature of the night, it was possible Cheyenne's timings were off. The phone, however, was a critical clue. Investigators hoped that the phone data could reveal other places Brittany had visited that night and help fill in the gaps left by Cheyenne's hazy memories. At 4:30 a.m., Cheyenne's phone data revealed that it pinged from a McDonald's location, a detail Cheyenne had failed to mention. Was it possible that Brittany had gone there after leaving the bar? Meanwhile, the results of Brittany's autopsy came in, confirming the detectives' suspicions. She had been strangled to death. The belt found near her body was now believed to be the murder weapon. Detectives continued to scrutinize Cheyenne's story, but something didn't feel right. Although Cheyenne could have been confused due to her intoxication, there was still a strong sense that her version of events was inconsistent. Despite Cheyenne's insistence that they had been at the Colonial Pub and Grill, there was no evidence to support it, and the investigators were beginning to doubt her account. Months passed, and by September 2015, investigators found themselves stuck in the same place they had been since March. The community was still reeling from the tragedy, and many tributes poured in, including a heartfelt one from Cheyenne. Investigators revisited Cheyenne's uncle, who, after some persuasion, became more forthcoming with details. He claimed that Cheyenne had told him that she and Brittany had met two men at the bar that morning and had gone to a motel with them. She had described them as black males, a stark contrast to her earlier claim that Brittany had been speaking to a white male. Cheyenne couldn't recall their names, what they were wearing, or the location of the motel. She mentioned that at the motel, they had smoked marijuana, and a dispute over cocaine had broken out. Cheyenne went to the bathroom, and when she returned, she found Brittany dead on the bed, her neck marked. Cheyenne told her uncle that the men had threatened her with a gun, forcing her to cover up what had happened. Despite doubts about the accuracy of Cheyenne's story, her account placed her at the scene of Brittany's death, and she had spoken about the marks on her neck. Cheyenne had a long criminal record with over 50 convictions since the age of 12. By this point, she was already in custody for another crime, which made it easier for police to question her. The once helpful and concerned friend who had been eager to assist suddenly became quiet, uncooperative, and evasive. When she refused to provide any useful information, the investigators had no choice but to leave. Over a year had passed, and the investigation had reached an impasse. Police felt they had exhausted all potential leads. Most CCTV footage had expired and was no longer useful, and no new information had surfaced. Despite all their efforts, the investigation still focused on one person, Cheyenne.
Brittany was a very great person. She loved life. She loved living it. She had such a kind heart. She gave everything she could to make other people happy. She did what she could do to make me happy. she wanted to finish school and open her own business and do everything she could to be successful. And then life was taken from her and she's no longer with us. But when I'm here, I can still feel her presence. And it's almost like she's telling me, Nikki, it's okay. I'll meet you again. We'll be together again. I'm in God's hands. I'm safe. And I just got to remember her for the person she was.
Investigators meticulously combed through Brittany and Cheyenne's social media accounts, hoping to uncover overlooked details, perhaps a buried comment or a message they had missed. Then, finally, they found something crucial. In a tribute post Cheyenne had shared, the upper half of her outfit was visible. Upon closer inspection, they realized she was wearing a belt they instantly recognized. It was the same belt found near Brittany's body and the suspected murder weapon. The marks on Cheyenne's neck matched the weave of the belt exactly, and the stains found in Brittany's car seemed consistent with the same belt. With this new discovery, the belt was sent for thorough DNA testing, which revealed both Cheyenne and Brittany's DNA on it. Authorities were stunned, as this key piece of evidence could have easily gone unnoticed if the photo had been taken from a different angle. The case was still difficult to piece together. There was no clear motive, and Cheyenne wasn't offering any helpful information. Months turned into years, and almost 2 years had passed since Brittany's death. Finally, a breakthrough came. A friend of Cheyenne's, who had remained silent until then, came forward with a shocking story. She revealed that Cheyenne had visited her house early that morning, sometime after 5 a.m., clearly intoxicated and sobbing uncontrollably. The friend described Cheyenne's rant as being fueled by alcohol. Cheyenne explained that she and Brittany had gotten into a heated argument over a cell phone, though she didn't go into details. Hysterically, Cheyenne confessed that she had hit and strangled Brittany to death with her belt. She pointed out the window, and the friend saw Brittany's car parked outside, with Brittany slumped against the passenger seat, bleeding. Cheyenne didn't elaborate on the argument's cause or how it had escalated, and she made no mention of anyone else being present or of a motel. The friend, deeply shaken, urged Cheyenne to leave. As Cheyenne sped off in her car, the friend said that Cheyenne claimed the next morning that she couldn't remember anything from that night, as though she had completely forgotten. Too afraid to report it to the police at the time, the friend eventually shared the information with Brittany's family. Cheyenne's uncle later confessed that she had asked him to support her fabricated story and had provided her with multiple false alibis. Police revealed that Cheyenne had manipulated the narrative, invented random people, used her uncle as an accomplice, posted lies on Facebook, and spent 2 years avoiding any responsibility for her actions. Despite her claims of remorse, she had the option of taking Brittany to the hospital but chose instead to leave her to die. In March 2017, Cheyenne Antoine was formally charged with second-degree murder and causing indignity to a body.
Cheyenne Antoine wore a baggy hooded jacket during the proceedings, at times using the long sleeves to cover her face. The 20-year-old is charged with second-degree murder in the death of Brittany Gargle. The victim's family and friends wept in the courtroom as the charges were read.
We're so grateful, and so thankful that the investigators that have been working on this for almost 2 years never gave up hope, because it was very hard for us at times to keep that hope up. Yeah, the details are not going to be pretty. I'm raising her 7-year-old sister who has a lot of questions and doesn't understand, so that's difficult. Brittany was very happy, joyful. She loved her family. She has 4 younger sisters. She loved her friends. She spent as much time with them as she could. She was a wonderful person whose life was cut short, and it's not fair.
Nearly 6 months later, the accused commented on the post, recounting a dream she had of the deceased teen, saying in part, "Woke up with tears in my eyes. I'm blessed to have met you and have you be a part of my life." Antoine's message concludes with, "Rest in paradise, my angel." Along with the murder charge, the former friend is accused of causing an indignity to a body. Antoine has several outstanding court matters, recently being found guilty of assault and uttering threats in a December incident. Meanwhile, Gargle's family is remembering her as a happy grade 12 student who loved her 4 younger sisters. When Antoine's appearance concluded, she put her hood up and walked out of the prisoner's box. She will remain in custody and is due back in court Friday. Ryan Kessler, Global News.
With all the evidence against her, Cheyenne repeated the same story she had shared with her friend that early morning. She said that after drinking and smoking heavily, her memory began to fade after the house party. Cheyenne recalled vaguely going to a McDonald's, where the two started arguing. They left and began walking when Brittany took Cheyenne's phone. Cheyenne couldn't remember the exact details, but said she became enraged and everything went blurry. Suddenly, Brittany was lying unconscious on the ground. At 21, Cheyenne finally stood in court and faced Brittany's family. She buried her face in her hands, crying and unable to look at anyone. Under Canadian law, second-degree murder is a deliberate killing that occurs without premeditation, but it doesn't meet the criteria for first-degree murder. While it can carry a severe sentence, it has a minimum term of life in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years. Manslaughter, on the other hand, refers to homicide without intent, but possibly with the intention to cause harm, and carries no mandatory minimum sentence. Cheyenne's legal team eventually announced that she was willing to cut a deal. She pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter instead of facing a trial for second-degree murder. Cheyenne expressed her willingness to take responsibility for Brittany's death, but she claimed to have no memory of the events. She and her lawyer argued that manslaughter was a more appropriate charge under the circumstances. Through her lawyer, Cheyenne conveyed her deep remorse, stating, "I will never forgive myself. Nothing I say or do will ever bring her back. I am so sorry. This should never have happened." Her lawyer emphasized Cheyenne's difficult background, noting that she had never had a stable relationship with her parents. Her mother had passed away when she was young, and Cheyenne had been arrested numerous times since the age of 12, accumulating 54 convictions by the age of 19. Her memories of her parents were tainted by their struggles with substance abuse, which they used to cope with the trauma from Canada's residential school system. Cheyenne had also lived with foster parents who had physically and sexually abused her. Her lawyer revealed that she had been sexually assaulted a month before Brittany's murder, which had intensified her alcohol and drug use, including methamphetamine. Despite all the hardships Cheyenne had faced, it was important to note that Brittany had been a steady source of support, helping her regulate her emotions and always being there for her when she needed someone. Brittany had been Cheyenne's constant, the one person she could rely on, and Cheyenne would have done anything for her.
This is just a tragic situation where drug and alcohol use exploded. My client had some very deep-seated personal issues that she was not dealing with, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, we'll never know, they turned into a very tragic situation for all involved.
Cheyenne knew that Brittany's family was desperate for an explanation, a reason for what had happened, but sadly, she could not offer one. Cheyenne's lawyer confirmed that police and prosecutors had heard Cheyenne mention a cell phone possibly being the cause of the argument, but beyond that, they had very few details. Cheyenne had remained silent on the issue, leaving her memories unclear. Whether she had blocked the events out or was intentionally keeping quiet remained uncertain, and it was likely that the truth would always remain hidden.
I'm just outside Saskatoon Provincial Court here. We have just learned the sentence of a woman who pleaded guilty to causing the death of what court heard was one of her best friends. Brittany Gargle was 18 years old when her body was found just south of Saskatoon near Cedar Villa Estates back in March of 2015. And today, Cheyenne Rose Antoine pleaded guilty to manslaughter in connection to Gargle's death. And the sentence that she received was a joint submission sentence agreed upon by the Crown and defense, the judge accepting it, meaning that Antoine will serve a 7-year sentence for manslaughter. Now, she was originally charged with second-degree murder, but pleaded guilty to the lesser included offense of manslaughter. And today we learned the facts surrounding this case that was quite mysterious for about 2 years. What she remembers is that they left a house party that night. They were heavily intoxicated, and Antoine says her last memory is of Gargle taking her phone. Cheyenne Antoine actually tried to mislead police in their investigation by saying that she was there that night, but that she had nothing to do with it, that she had left before anything had happened, and kind of tried to almost make it seem like she was looking for her friend as well through Facebook postings. As far as a motive, we just spoke to the defense lawyer who said that this is a case where we will never truly know what caused this woman to kill one of her closest friends, as she just does not remember it happening. However, she does take responsibility for her being the one responsible for this woman's death. At Saskatoon Provincial Court, I'm Bree McAdam with the Saskatoon Star Phoenix.
At 21, Cheyenne was sentenced to 7 years in prison, with the possibility of release in 2024 or 2025. The judge emphasized that Cheyenne needed to undergo rehabilitation to address her addiction and anger issues. The judge urged Cheyenne to honor her friend by becoming a positive and productive person, reminding her that she owed it to Brittany to persevere and turn her life around. The judge remarked that many questions about that night would likely never be answered, leaving the family to wonder why it all happened. One person claimed to have no memory, while the other refused to speak at all.
Gargle's family is still struggling to come to grips with the teen's death. She was a fun-loving, committed young woman who had a good life ahead of her, they say.
Today we learned some details that will help with closure regarding this incident. Brittany was a wonderful young person that didn't deserve this, and we truly, deeply miss her every day.
Brittany's aunt described the anguish of losing her niece as an overwhelming, dark, and intense pain that never fades. Christy, Brittany's stepmother, shared how Brittany's little sister, only 5 years old at the time of her death, struggles with guilt. She feels that if a day goes by without thinking about Brittany, it means she's forgetting her. Brittany's father, Everett, spoke of the anger and sorrow that filled him when he thought about how short his daughter's life had been. "My life changed forever. I miss her every single day." He reflected on the day before Brittany's death, when he had planned to help her fix something on her car, but he couldn't make it back in time. "I think about that every day, knowing it could have been the last time I hugged her. And now I'm robbed of that moment." Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this story both compelling and thought-provoking. If you want to support our channel and help us continue to create more content, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.